But as people who are conscious of their environment, of their time, of their origins, of their roots, of their expectations, of their desires, of their destination, we should be able to initiate investigations, studies, where we do these excavations and look for the various personalities in our ancestry, what they did, who they were, perhaps where they stayed, their achievements, their careers. People might be quick to say, way back people didn't have careers, but when you actually go deeper into the lineage, the ancestral line, you will find that there were people who were probably hunters, and they were known for hunting. There were people who were maybe craftsmen, people who forged tools and implements, who were able to carve, utensils, carve tools and implements. There were people who were warriors, who couldn't make the spears and arrows and bows, but they borrowed them or they acquired them from those who had the gifts of making them. You had fishermen. You had grandmothers and aunts who were midwives. You have those who were able to, mold vessels, clay pots, weaving baskets, and so on, making all these things. And you had those who were good at growing crops. You had those who were, adept at selling, even when there was no actual money, but there were exchanges that people engaged in. There were those who were good at, looking after, the livestock, goats, chickens, cattle, sheep, and all sorts. And when they were given charge of that area, they would excel. This is where we are looking at bloodline identities, bloodline blessings, bloodline talents, gifts, and anointing. You will be able to establish that down the line, there was always a resurgence of people who could play the drum. In the fourth generation going back, you would hear maybe there was one ancestor who was known all over the shore for playing the drum, just playing the drum, and he made a living out of it. He even married a number of wives, all playing the mbira or the harmonizers or any other musical instrument. And then from the generation maybe of your great grandparents, when you came down to the grandparents, there was also somebody who was actually very good at playing some musical instrument, or cattle rearing, or growing crops, or hunting, or forging axes, spears, arrows, hoes, and all sorts of, all manner of instruments, of tools, of implements needed by the other members of the community who were not good at making those things. So you would find there is this resurgence, which is, you could say, atavistic, of these talents, gifts, and anointing, of people of that caliber who excel in certain things. And when you come down to the level of your parents, whether they are now departed or they are still living, you may find, some of those gifts that you started knowing about in connection with a great great grandfather, or great great grandmother, or great great grand aunt, great great grand uncle. You will find among your own parents, your uncles, your aunts, those gifts, those talents are still in evidence. Maybe they are not using them on a full-time basis. Perhaps they have another job that pays them, but they practice those arts, or those skills, or those gifts on a part-time basis, maybe as a hobby. But when they get hold of the tools that they should use, the instruments that they should play, you can immediately tell that now here is expertise at its sharpest. They are distinguished by the effortlessness with which they handle these things, with which they, perform, because they have an inherited gift, an inherited talent, inherited anointing in that particular area. And it never goes away. It will resurface one way or another among the male children or girl children. It will continue to re-emerge because it's a bloodline identity, it's a bloodline blessing, it's a bloodline talent. And when you are actually looking at your own prospects, opportunities, and growing up, trying to identify careers, professions, and pursuits, you want to take into account the digest of the personages in your lineage and relate them to the talents that were often cited in stories about your ancestry, and then think about them in the context of your search for a career, a type of business, a skill. Whether it's for yourself when you are, in school, progressing to high school, then college, university, and considering choices of careers, or you are looking at your siblings who are actually looking for, careers, professions, practices that they would want to pursue, or you are looking at your children, the children of your siblings, of your aunts, of your uncles. All these things you need to take them within the context of the framework of the ancestral or lineage, bloodline, blessings, identities, as well as the talents, the gifts, anointing that was prevalent down the generations from as far back as you can go in your excavations.